Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. I have Oli Nold on today. This dude is in Bali right now. We're going to find, I think he lives there. I don't know. We're going to find out. Stay with me. Hey, and we're back. Let me bring this dude on, Oli Nomad X. What's up, Oli?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm a little bit jealous. I said when you told me you're in Bali, I'm like, dude, what are you doing sitting inside then? You're like, 'cause it's dark out there right now.
It is pitch black at the moment.
Yeah. Wow. So we're gonna get to why you're in Bali, but let's start with where you were born and raised. Start there.
So I'm born in Switzerland. So I'm holding three passports, to be honest. I'm holding a Swiss passport, a German passport, and an Argentinian passport. But I've been raised and born in Switzerland, spent most of the time there. So consider myself as a Swiss. At the moment, I'm traveling on a German passport, but yeah, let's call it Switzerland.
Wait, you just covered like 150 countries in one sentence. Did you? Let's see. Swiss,
German, and Argentina.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah.
So, so you were born and raised in Switzerland. Like that's where you went to school.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And we have somebody joining us from France.
So that's pretty close. That's pretty close. Awesome.
So did you? So you went to school there? Did you go to college?
Yeah, that's kind of like it's kind of like college. It's a bit of a different system in Switzerland, but let's call it a college. I've been kind of like through the normal college school and everything. I did an apprenticeship in Switzerland as an electrician, and then after that I kind of like started to travel. In my like 20s, early 20s, I started to travel, and from there on I've been like kind of like in and out of Switzerland, but went kind of like always back home to Switzerland till I was and 20s, 29, 30. So the whole other journey kind of like started in my end 20s then.
This is my buddy Joe. I'm joining from the communistic state of California. Oh my God. So tell me what, like, I've never been to Switzerland. I've seen obviously pictures and videos. It looks absolutely beautiful. What was it like being raised there?
It's yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world.
Yeah.
In terms of the landscapes and everything, what goes around with is like it's an amazing culture. I love the food. I've been raised very, very close to the mountains, so I'm super much into snowboarding. That's how I grew up. Spent like every weekend up in the snow, and it's like this. It's literally what you see on the pictures. That's exactly how it is. It is purely magical.
Wow.
But on the other side, it's in my opinion, and that's what I didn't like about it. Yeah, the chocolate is really that good, bro. Joe. on the other side, it's a very close-minded culture in there. Like that, people are like super like everyone is focusing on money. Nothing wrong about that, don't get me wrong, but everyone is like literally like about what status you have, what car do you drive, how big is your flat, like how much income do you have. Not a lot of people like, like not like super open-minded to travel and to explore the world. So it's like this little island in the middle of Europe where we do like our own little thing. So I've never really I never really felt like home in terms of being in a country where I feel like super comfortable, even if it was like beautiful in terms of nature and everything. And it is, to be very honest, bro, it's like crazy expensive. It's like,
is it really?
Singapore. It is really expensive. So the only way to live in Switzerland is to work in Switzerland. You need to get a Swiss salary to afford all the beautiful things in Switzerland, or you save like half your life to spend some holidays there. So yeah, that's that, and that was never really my style. But I don't want to complain. It's a privilege to be Swiss.
Yeah.
To be very honest, so like, well, like education, health system, everything what was paying me on my journey was mainly based because I had the privilege to grow up in such a high-end society.
And they make some pretty good watches too, I heard.
Oh yeah, it's the watches, it's the cheese, it's the chocolate. So
that's awesome.
We know our shit, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so I find it interesting though that you were like this place is a little out of control with certain things in the culture. At what age were you when you kind of had that realization?
I think I was pretty young because I was very lucky that my parents, they kind of like, they took us on a lot of travels. In early ages, me and my brother's 3 years younger than I am. So even in my early days, like when I was like 12, 15, we went to the States and we traveled to Canada. So I started to see the world and I started to see what else is like. And we traveled all around Europe and we've been to Italy and France and all, like, and I kind of like had a very open mind to everything. So when I was like, I'd say like 18, 19, when I finished my apprenticeship, I was like, I got to go. And I got to leave Switzerland and I got to explore the world. And that's kind of like where everything started to change, even if it was a long journey from then. But that kind of like was kind of like my first breakthrough moments.
So, but you had the apprenticeship as an electrician.
Right.
Okay. So it's funny. I was talking Joe Ingram, who's on here. We were talking last night. I said, "Is that thing?" He was showing me this new USB thing he got, and I said, "Does that plug into an?" I said, "What do they call it? AC or DC?" And so, but so you got into you became an electrician in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And you did the apprenticeship. What was it that made you go, I'm out of here, I'm going to start traveling?
I don't know. I just was like, like when you grow up in Switzerland, it's such a small country, like there's a population of like 6 to 7 million, but it's very multicultural as well. We speak kind of like 4 languages in there. So we're kind of like, and because we're like in that middle of Europe, you're kind of like, you either like you really stay in your bubble or you want to go and explore. And for me, it was always like, I want to go out there, I want to explore, I want to see the world, I want to see what's out there. And based on what I've learned from growing up, it was like, okay, you go to school, you do your college, and you do an apprenticeship, because that's what you do in Switzerland, right? And then once that's over, you kind of like pretty much entitled to go and to see the world. So I started when I was like 20. I spent 6 months in Vancouver, and kind of like I went to a language school. As you can tell, they did not really a good job with my English because that's all I got at the moment. But so I spent like 6 months in Vancouver, and I learned English, and that was kind of like, that's when I was like, okay, cool, that's it. I really, really need to see the world, and I want to go out there and explore the whole thing. But I was back and forward for the next 10 years, from 20 on till, let's say 29, 30, I was back and forward all the time. I never really made it to leave Switzerland completely, because I came always back, and I was like, and then I started to do my master degree, my bachelor degree. I went to different schools. I started to run my own companies. I built 3 companies by myself, and you know, like I started to do all that thing which you do as a Swiss, because you're like super educated. So it was like this back and forward journey.
But dude, hold on. First I gotta correct the course here a little. Nobody goes to Vancouver to learn English, just for the record. that's Canada, man. They speak French. So I'm just kidding, man. Like, do you say a at the end of every sentence, or?
That's what I told you. As I said, my English is still like super fucked up. So it's like,
no, your English is great, dude. Your English is great. So you, man, you've done a lot, and you're over 30.
I'm 38.
What, dude? I thought you were in your like late 20s at best.
I know. I don't look 38, but yeah, I just turned 38 like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, man.
Wow. So yeah. Okay. So you were in Vancouver to learn English. I'm just kidding. So you're in Vancouver, you're working on, but English is, I mean, it's taught in Switzerland, right?
Sorry, say that again.
English is like, what is the language in Switzerland?
So we're native Swiss German, which is not really a language. So there's no grammar, or so that's just what we speak to each other. So in school we learn German as a second language, and then based on the culture, it's Italian and French. And obviously, because we're like in that middle of Europe, we've been introduced to English in the early days. So we learn English in school at one point, like the basic English. Yeah.
Okay. So you said between the ages of 20 and 30, you were back and forth between Switzerland and, it sounds like, a lot of other places.
A lot of other places. Yeah, I've just been like traveling all the time, and I've been like exploring the world, but never really left Switzerland. I went there for 2-3 months, and then I came back, and then I went there for 6 months, and I came back. You know, like that back and forward journey I always did.
And you're building companies at the same time?
At the same time, I was always very entrepreneurial. Wow. And I always got myself into I always like to kind of like to be my own boss and to build my own stuff. So what was your first business that you started? The first business I've been like, I would say like the first one I've really like been super involved into it was architecture for light design. Because I've been an electrician, and that's kind of like where I was coming from, but I was always very interested in art and design. So yeah, I started by the time with some friends. I started a company with based on architecture and light design, which was a pretty cool project, and it lasted for I think like 3 years before we sold it. So that was a cool one.
Jeez. And how old were you when you started that?
So by this time I was like 23, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. And then you got into something else. Is everything that you've done, is it all related to being an electrician, or?
No, actually not. I mean, like not really. The next business I started was an event agency. So we started to sell DJ equipment. I was having this really cool collaboration with Pioneer. I'm sure you know about Pioneer,
Yeah.
like the big brand
Oh
for all
yeah.
the
Yeah.
equipment, which was kind of like related because I knew how to connect the cables and all that stuff, like, so
Yeah.
it was a technical thing. So yeah, that was a company called Beatmix by the time, and that was kind of like what took all my time, and was working with Pioneer and started to sell online DJ equipment. Started one of the first DJ schools in Switzerland, expanded to Europe, and brought all these big names in it, and starting to grow a very successful business by the time. Yeah.
Wow. Selling DJ equipment.
Yes.
Where?
Online.
So
That
everywhere.
was my everywhere, all around the world, because we had this exclusive partnership with Pioneer Switzerland. So we're kind of like started to sell all that stuff all around the world. Mainly, first of all, mainly in Europe, but then expanded like. We had like, like our equipment was like, you guys know that from the States, like Burning Man. We were like, we were sponsors of Burning Man and had all our equipment there. So we were
Wow.
working with the big names like Carl Cox, David Guetta, like all the mainstream guys. And yeah, that was an awesome time, bro. It was freaking amazing.
That is freaking amazing. Pioneer was the very first stereo system I put in my 1975 Chevelle, actually.
Awesome. Yeah, they're good at that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you how long did you do that?
That was, I think that was another like 3 to 4 years over the whole period. By the time I was kind of like involved in a few other businesses, but at the end of Beatmix, that was kind of like when I would say like 29, and when Beatmix was super successful by the time. So it was like I was never ever like the kind of guy who left home or Switzerland for good because everything was shit or I was done with it. I was literally just like I didn't want it to be attached to one place. So
Right.
I was like, okay, we're running these online stores, but we had these physical stores and we had all the teams and all that stuff. And I was so kind of like addicted still to see the world, to travel, and I just wanted to be like completely free. And that's when I gave up on the beat mix and DJ agency business, and transformed everything completely in, first of all, into the online world, and then started to be. I packed my backpack and I sold all my stuff. Literally like almost overnight. It was like a 2 months process and getting rid of everything. I was like, okay, let's go and do something different, because I was 30 by the time, and you feel like you're getting like into slowly towards the second half of your life. So what you gonna do for the second half of your life? And I felt like it's definitely time for a change.
Wow. That is such a unique perspective. Because that's not how most people live. Would you agree with that?
I know. Oh, yes, I do. I was like, that's a bit of a special situation. I do definitely agree. Yeah.
So okay, so at some point, so you I mean, you said you have an Argentinian passport, right? Oops, are you there? You are.
Yep. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. You said you have an Argentinian passport. Is that right?
That's right. Yes, because my dad is half Argentinian, half German. My mom is Swiss.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So and a German passport.
Yes.
Okay. So you got out of the DJ business, packed a backpack, sold all your stuff, and
right.
Where did you go?
Not one of my smartest ideas, but I went straight to Ibiza.
To where?
Kind of like Ibiza. You know Ibiza?
No, what's Ibiza?
You never heard about Ibiza, the small island in Spain?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest party islands in the world.
Yes.
Uh, Crazy place, really like crazy place, bro. But I was very familiar with the island because we did a lot of business there. So
Right.
as this was like an overnight decision, kind of like an overnight decision to leave. So I was not really sure where should I go to start with. So I was like, Ibiza is a very good place because it's super secluded, but I still know a lot of people there and I have a lot of contacts. So I went there and I think I went on a 6 month bender and just partied through and celebrated life, which was awesome. Yeah, man.
That's awesome, dude. So what you said, probably not my smartest move. Is that what you said?
Yeah. I spent like half of my savings, like from everything we sold from the company. It's like because Ibiza is like crazy expensive as well. So we're like partying through like 6 months in a row and just celebrating life, which was a great time. I don't regret, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was intense. It was intense. But I met a girl. At this end, after this 6 months period. I met a girl, and it's kind of like this big love story. I fell in love, like ba ba bam, and she was from London, so I went to London with her, and I spent like a year, and I lived a year in London before then traveling onwards to Asia.
Did she go with you?
She came with me. We're not together anymore. This whole thing lasted like 3 years. So I spent a year in London with her. I was working for Amazon by the time. I was doing technical support for Amazon Prime, also at the techie background, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after a year, we kind of like was done with London, and then we started to travel Southeast Asia. Ended up in Thailand, spent a lot of time in Thailand, Cambodia, and then
Wow.
went to Vietnam, and I think I spent like more than a year in Vietnam.
Oh my gosh, dude. I mean, is there a country you haven't been in?
There is. There's still a lot of my bucket list. Believe me, there is still a lot.
So and when you told me about this girl, I thought, and I know that you're in Bali right now, so I'm thinking,
Yeah.
either she's a nomad also, or it didn't work out. One of the two. Because you just don't seem like somebody you could keep in a settle down, and I don't know.
Tricky one. It's a tricky one, but I'm engaged. I'm engaged now since 3 years.
Wow.
With the girl from Germany, and yeah, I met her in Vietnam because she was a traveler. She was a nomad as well, and yeah, we fell in love, and she stayed, and we moved to Bali, and since 3 years we're calling Bali as a home base, which
Really?
means we're not spending all the time of the year on Bali, but we have a house here, we have the offices here, we have parts of our company here. We're traveling back and forward, and yeah, man. So I would say, like, if you call me where is home, I'm like, yeah, Bali.
Really? Well, that's not a bad place to call home.
It could be worse, man. It could be worse.
Yeah, you could be in Ohio where I am. So like, you're like, no. But so in gosh, man, I'm trying to keep up at this point. So I mean, dude, right? You've been a lot of places. I'm not just making this up. So here you were in Vietnam. I'm interested in that because I have a really good friend. She's an architect. She's been on the show. Her name's Michelle Aldrich, and she's traveling, right? I mean, she's been traveling for a year now. But she started out in Thailand, and now I don't know if she's in Vietnam or back in Thailand or where she is at the moment, but you ended up in Vietnam. what did you do? I mean, because you said you spent half of your savings
in Ibiza.
Ibiza, yeah, and you end up in
Yeah.
Vietnam at some point. Were you still working at Amazon?
No, no, absolutely. It's a very good question. I think you're putting the puzzle together.
I'm
Super
trying,
smart.
man. I'm trying.
No,
This
you're
is
good.
one of those
You're good,
giant
man.
1,000-piece puzzles. I'm going, God, where does this piece go?
No, you're absolutely right. So we were like, when I was working for Amazon only when I was living in London by the time, and then we started to travel, and we traveled big parts of Southeast Asia, like Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and some other countries, Malaysia, and then also Indonesia. But we ended up in Vietnam by the time, and also because we were kind of like at one point running out of money. So it was literally like there was a point where we're like, okay, we need to go back and start a business or do something to make some cash. And I ended up in Vietnam, and you wouldn't believe me, because, but I ended up in Vietnam and started to teach English, which is.
Let's be clear, it was Canadian English.
It's exactly what you're listening to right now. So I only did the kindergarten. Okay, it's like like house, table, chair. Like just simple words. So no one really realized how bad my English was.
That is so freaking funny. Oh my God. Oh, okay. So here you are now, an English teacher in Vietnam.
Here we are, an English teacher in Vietnam.
Oh, dude,
which made me.
That may
Which,
be the funniest thing I've ever heard. That is hilarious.
I know. Yeah.
So how long did you do? You said you were in Vietnam for about a year.
I was in Vietnam for a year. So let me tell you the story, because one of the main reasons why I stayed in Vietnam, because I've been like all my life, one of my biggest passions is riding dirt bikes. Okay, so I absolutely love bikes.
Yeah.
Everything has an engine and two wheels. I'm super addicted to. And Vietnam, especially Hanoi, is one of the hot spots in the world to ride dirt bikes, because from there you can go up to the Chinese border. It's only a 2-day journey, and you got like one of the most beautiful landscapes you can ever imagine, and it's one of the best spots in the world to ride dirt bikes. So I ended up in Vietnam with the intention to ride dirt bikes and to build dirt bikes and to deal with everything with dirt bikes. But that business didn't really work out at the beginning. So that's why I started to teach English, because that's kind of like what every foreigner does in Vietnam. It's really easy to get a job, even if your English is as bad as my English is. So you can make some decent money.
Really?
They pay you some really decent money. Yeah, they pay you like really like $25-30 an hour to teach the kindergarten kids. So, and Vietnam doesn't cost you anything. Living cost is like super low. So
Jeez.
that was a good opportunity for me to stay there. And by this time I was still with that girl I met in London, but we did some from there. We've been like in and out of Vietnam. We traveled to India. I spent quite a few months in India, then went to Sri Lanka, and this whole relationship started kind of like to fell apart. Wouldn't never, if she ever sees that, and not blaming anyone on it. It was just like we went like separate roads.
Yeah.
And so the relationship, we broke up, which was kind of like heartbreaking for me by the time. And I felt like I got to leave Vietnam. So I went back home to Switzerland for a few months, just because I didn't know what to do. I was kind of like lost. I I came straight from India, went back to Vietnam, was like, okay, the whole relationship is broke. What you gonna do? It's like, okay, I go back to Switzerland, I sort my shit out, clear my head. And I went back on construction work for a few months as an electrician in Switzerland, because that's another very, very good, way to make a shitload of money in a short amount of time. So I went back there, worked on construction, and after a few months, I was like, okay, you know what? I went to Vietnam because I wanted to do this dirt bike thing, and I never really got it off the ground. So I was like, okay, let's go back and try it again. So I went back to Vietnam and I started my own company. We were like trading dirt bikes, building dirt bikes, renting dirt bikes, and doing dirt bike tours, taking people from all around the world up to China, along the borders, doing like this 3, 4, 5 day trips. And it was like, yeah, man, and I spent there another year, and I was like, kind of like living my personal dream. That's kind of like everything I wanted. And at the end of that year, I met my girl, the one I'm with now, my fiance, the one I'm engaged to, and she was traveling through Southeast Asia for a few months, and I was living in Vietnam. And it's a cheesy one. We met on Tinder, and we fell in love, and she stayed.
Wow. Now, did she ride dirt bikes at the time too?
Not at all. Not at all. She's like, not at all. She's like a super classy girl. She doesn't like the dirt, but that fits very well because, it's like plus and minus, right? That whole thing.
Opposites attract, right? So you were in Vietnam. You started this. What is this, like your 7th business maybe at that time, doing the dirt bikes? Probably, yeah. What I find amazing is you don't seem to allow anything to keep you down, and meaning, like, you know, there are people who, as soon as times get tough, they run out of money. Like you said, we were out of money in Vietnam, and you're like, I got to start a business or get a job doing something, whatever. Like, you just like, and you went back to Switzerland after Vietnam the first time. You go back to Switzerland, you're like, I'm just going to do electrician stuff. And you did that for a few months. You just keep moving, man. You keep going. And I love that about you. And you're like, and I'm still going to go see the rest of the world, by the way.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like, that's my motivation, you know. Like I look at life like it's a massive playground, you know. Like, and if I say playground, that doesn't mean we shouldn't take it serious, but it's people tend to overcomplicate and overthink everything they do in their life, you know. Like, and it's actually not that hard. We're all like super smart human beings, and there are like millions of opportunities out there. So I'm that kind of guy who just goes out there and is like, okay, let's make shit happen, you know. Like, I just don't stop, because if you stop, you kind of like, you start to stuck in that whole bubble, and you really go in that rat race, and that's exactly where I don't want to be, you know. Like, I'm just go there, and I don't mind to try as many different things as possible, so, and make it happen. Because if there is one thing I always do, is like, I enjoy every single day to the fullest. That doesn't mean I don't have bad days, you know. Like, I do have bad days like everyone else as well, but I even appreciate the bad days, because you need a certain amount of rain to enjoy the sunshine, you know what I mean? So It's all about that. Yeah, having the contrast.
It's where the growth comes in, man. So you were in Vietnam. You met your fiance.
Right.
How long did you guys, after you met, how long were you in Vietnam after that?
So we met in Vietnam, and that's kind of like, was it was another love story, you know, like boom, fully in love and the big thing. And she stopped traveling then, and she spent a few weeks, I think it was like about 1.5, 2 months, in Vietnam. I took her to Bali, which was my second time here, just on a tourist base, just to show her around and everything. So yeah, we really fell in love. And after this, like, let's say, like, I think like 6 weeks or so, she was like, look, I have to go back. I have a life back home in Germany. I have a flat, I have a car, I have a job, which I committed to come back, and I got my whole life there. And I was like, I fully understand, but from my point of view, it's just like, if you want to make that happen between you and me, you got to come into my life, because I'm not going back. I'm not going back into Europe, and I'm not going to go back on or work on construction or do anything like where I love my life the way it is right now. So if you wanna be with me, you got to come in my life, which was pretty selfish by the time, but it was just like exactly the way I wanted to go. And yeah, this crazy girl, what she did, she went back home. She went back home. She sold all her stuff in between 2 months, and she came back to Vietnam, and she was like, "Here I am." I was like, "All right, okay, that's freaking cool."
Look, dude, you're. This is my wife on here saying she wants to buy a big RV, travel, and so like, wow.
Awesome.
So she goes and sells all of her stuff. I mean, did you know she was doing that though?
I mean, obviously, she was like, I was like informed about the process, but I really didn't believe it till I saw it. You know, like, then she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do that. I want to be with you." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I've heard that so many times, you know, but she really did it. And
Wow.
yeah, and she came back to Vietnam, and she was like, "Fuck, here I am. So let's make it happen together." I was like, and I was so overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed that she did that. I was like, straight away, it was like, okay, that's so cool. Do you want to marry me? I think you're the one. Finally, you are the one. And since then we're engaged, right? So
Wow. Dude, okay, so wow, that is unbelievable. So how long after that was it that you ended up in Bali?
so the way the story goes was like, the only thing she said when she came back is, I don't want to live in Vietnam, because, or especially not in Hanoi, because Hanoi is loud, it's dirty, it's pretty dangerous. It's just like not a pretty place to be, even if for me it was one of my most favorite places in the world. But I can definitely understand, because most people I know, they're done with Hanoi after 3-4 days, because it's like very, very intense. So she was like, "Look, if I'm coming to Asia and I'm doing that thing, I'm living with you, I don't want to stay in Vietnam, or especially not in Hanoi. So let's make something different." And I was 100% confirmed. But look, if she's doing that massive step for me, and giving up everything up back home and coming into my life, and I was like, okay, let's go and search for a new place. And so I
Wow.
got rid of my motorbike business. I sold again one more time. I sold all my motorbikes and all the business license and everything back in Vietnam. Um, and packed up all my stuff, and we're like, okay, let's go. But where do we go? We didn't really know. So it was like, what I like to do is like, I think sometimes like having no plan is the plan, right? So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's just see what happens. So we went back to Bali, because by the time it seemed like the most logical thing. We've both been there before. It's beautiful. It's always sunny. And it was like, okay, why we're not going back to Bali, chilling out for a while and figuring out what we're gonna do next. And that's literally like almost 3 years ago now, because we came back to Bali and we never left. And when we came back to Bali, I was like, okay, because you're now in my life and we're doing this together, we need to get you a job, right? So we need to make sure that you get a job as well, or something which creates an income. So I started a company 3 years ago, which called Homeless and Happy. Together with her, so we made it a 50-50 LP based in the UK, and it was meant to be a startup accelerator for online companies, for online startups, which kind of like turned into a different direction, because I have a very strong background in marketing. She has a very strong background in real estate, and we wanted to set up all these people with that company, Homeless and Happy, and using it as an accelerator to push them quicker through the online world. But we figured out very quick that they all have amazing ideas, but they don't have budget for marketing. So we started to develop all these strategies for organic growth hacking, mainly on Facebook, and building communities to push organically brands through the system and making them viral. So Homeless and Happy became that brand for organic growth hacking through communities, which was unexpected. And we kind of like did it for almost 2 years. And it was like, wow, probably my most successful company ever. Which is awesome.
Are you still doing that?
No, I sold it like about 8 months ago. I sold it to a company called NomadX, which is a marketplace, is an Airbnb for digital nomad. And I sold it and invested into NomadX. And since then, we're building a tech platform, a marketplace, which works exactly like an Airbnb, but we're only focusing on remote workers and building around that. We're building all the communities and all the assets.
Wow, dude. Jiminy Christmas. Is there a website? Is there a website for people to check out?
Yeah, it's nomadx.com.
No,
it's exactly as it says down here, is nomadx.com.
Okay. I'm gonna put up a little scrolling ticker so you can go check out nomadx.com right there. Wow, man. So you could literally do that though from anywhere.
Yes, absolutely. We have like all our programmers. All our programmers at the moment are like based in Mexico. We got big parts of the team in Portugal. Myself, I'm based in Asia. So we're building that whole company completely remote from everywhere in the world.
Jiminy, that dude. Wow. It's like you just almost fall into some of these deals, like on accident.
Yeah. I know. I just try not to say too much. I let it happen, and it kind of like it appears.
I know, and that's the thing. Is you're out and you're seeing the entire world. I mean, for the most part. Did you ever? Like, I was wondering back to Vietnam for a minute. When you're dirt biking out to the border of China, did you ever cross over into China?
Yes, not legally, but we did. Yeah.
Isn't that a good way to get shot?
Is that not the way of living, bro?
You're like, okay, everybody, we're in China now. Keep your heads down.
Yeah, it's like it's rock and roll.
You said not legally, but yes. That is so funny, dude. So let me ask you a question, because this show is called Breakthrough Walls, and it's all about first off, your story is absolutely unbelievable. It's amazing, man. And I think that there are so many people in this world that hit obstacles in life and they get stuck there, or something bad happens and they get stuck there, or they just give up and they go get a job for the rest of their lives, doing whatever. But what do you think keeps most people stuck in life in general?
I think it's a very good question, and I think there are many reasons why, but I think one of the main reasons, what I've seen, is like people don't allow themselves to think big. You know, like they have like these limited beliefs, and they are always, most of the people always like think, what could possibly go wrong? And that's kind of like a lot of people wasting their time by trying to figure out what's the risk, what could go wrong, why should I not do it? And in my opinion, it's more likely about, you know, like go out there, try it, and even if you fail, because in my opinion, success, and I'm living proof of it, you know, like I failed so many times, but success is built on failure. So fail fast, but always fail forward. Just do it, you know, like, and then get up again and do it again. There is nothing wrong about that. And a lot of people are afraid of that. A lot of people are literally like, and that's not their fault. I would never blame that on anyone, but it's mainly also because the way we're growing up, the system we're growing up. And I don't want to be like the guy who's like, oh, the system is wrong and everything, you know, like, but it's what you make out of it. A few of us were probably more lucky, because probably I'm missing some genes, and I'm more like the guy who goes out there and makes stuff happen. And for other people, that's more difficult. But that's also why I'd love to inspire others and taking them on the journey. But at the end of the day, it's all about yourself, and it's all about, always ask yourself, you know, like what's at the end of the journey? How much do you really want to miss? That's kind of like why a lot of people don't break through.
That's so true, man. It's so true. And I think you might be right about the missing a gene or something, because I can relate to, like, I just don't understand going and getting, and some people are like, what's wrong with you? But like, I don't understand. I can't relate to going and getting a job and settling down like that. I just don't, I don't get it. You know, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. So you, man, your story is absolutely, I think it's inspiring. And, you know, a lot of people might think you're out of your mind. But I don't. I think it's very, I really do, man. I think it's awesome. So do you have, like, is your intent to stay in Bali for a while, or?
Probably for now. To be very honest, we had some massive plans with Nomad X because Nomad X became really successful. The whole company started in Portugal. We got like a bit more than 2,000 properties now in Portugal, so it became really successful across the country. And the plan was to expand it this year to Bali, and at least to about 3 to 4 other European countries as well. But I'm pretty sure you heard about that little virus who's going around at the moment. So that kind of like, now like COVID stopped everything we were on about, because we really rely on travel, and as long as people don't travel, it kind of like shut down our whole business model almost overnight, which is obviously sad, but it's also, that's the way it goes, you know, like that's entrepreneurship. That's a risk you have to take. It could be this one, it could be something else. So based on the whole situation, I'd say like the first maybe like 1 to even like the first 3 months when everything happened, like February, March, I really tried very hard to save as much as possible, to adapt and to pivot, and, you know, like, but at one point it was like, I just realized it's absolutely out of my control. It's completely out of my control. And I'm not talking about, you know, like, is it like a fucking Siri and the world goes nuts on something which is a scam, or is it the real global serious pandemic? We don't know. The fact is, like, the whole world shut down. This is something I can't control. So I just decided for now to take a step back, to chill out on the island, to see how everything goes over the next few months, and then taking it straight from there. And I think we're going to call Bali a bit longer as a base as we probably expected, but that's totally fine.
But so is there, I mean, so you don't have an income then? Like really?
Oh, I do have an income.
Oh.
I'm always having several income streams.
I love it, dude.
Yeah, I do. We're kind of like, we're doing a lot of e-commerce as well by the side and stuff like that. And we're definitely, I'm always like, we're very, very lucky people. And I'm like always super honest about that, because we're having the privilege to go for a while without making the expected income.
Yeah.
So for me, so what I started to do after the first, once I started to realize this one here is out of my control, I started to stop. We stopped all the marketing campaigns completely. I started to stop doing any sales or anything. And the only thing I focused on was like building communities, focusing on the community and giving back, like, because I know we're privileged. We belong to the people who are having that whole journey kind of like already behind us, the one where a lot of people are looking into it. So I was like, okay, it's time to give back. And that feels really good, and I'm super confident, and that's kind of like what I do now at the moment. I'm building my communities, I network a lot, and I build my brand, and I keep the momentum as strong as possible, because once it's over, and it will be over, the question is when. It might be 3 months, it might be 3 years, we don't know. But once it's over, I'm ready and hit the start button, and I'm good to go.
Wow. My wife just said it. You have such an incredible perspective, man. So question there. Look, there's Zach. I tagged him to get him in here. How did you,
Zach?
I know, I love this dude. How did you and Zach?
He's awesome. How did we met? That's a very good question. I think he is friend with one of my business partner, Olomide. And these guys, I don't know what they had going on. I think they did some live streams or stuff like that. And I know Zach before just by following him through Instagram. And my business partner set up a post, and I was like, boom. Because what I do at the moment, probably not as intense as you, but we're setting up a lot of live streams where I invite as many people as possible to my own show to provide value to the community. And I was like, Zach, you're one of the guys I want to have on my show. And he joined, and we streamed together. And that's how he introduced me to you. And here we are.
Zach's awesome, man. I met Zach. It was about a year ago. We met out in San Diego, man. He's a badass.
Yeah, I love him. He's a great character, super personality, very successful in what he does. He knows his shit, and I highly respect that.
Yeah, he sure does. So you're in Bali, you're staying there for a little bit until this whole COVID thing passes, and you can hit the start button on the other business. And dude, your story is actually really, really impressive. Like,
thank you.
I don't know. I mean, maybe Zach has seen more of the world than you. I don't know. He's been around.
He's been around.
There's my buddy Glenn Morshower. You've seen that guy in movies and on TV. He's my best friend in the world.
That name rings a bell, actually.
Yeah. He's awesome. He's been in Hollywood for 45 years. But so dude, hey, thank you. I genuinely, it's almost midnight in Bali now, right?
Totally fine.
Hey, do you live those things out over the water? Like, do you have like the glass floor where you can see the water?
Oh, I don't have it in my house.
Yeah, I know.
But there are plenty of them here around.
Yeah, man, it looks.
Have you been to Bali? Have you ever been to Bali?
I have not.
No.
No.
Okay, put it on your list. Put it on your list, and if you ever make it happen, be my guest. It would be a pleasure.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. I got to put it
Awesome.
on my list, man. So I think
Do it.
everybody loved the interview with you today, man. So thank you again. I appreciate you coming on. And one last question I always try to ask, because you know there was this time years ago when my business was still, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years old. And I had some employees, and you know, I've been in tech for 26 years. And one of my employees walks in and goes, "Hey, boss, there's a guy outside looking in the windows of your SUV." And I was on a phone. I said, "Well, tell him to get the hell out of here." And he's like, "I would, but he's got it blocked with his tow truck. He was there to repossess my car." I was like, "What? You gotta be kidding me." It was a horrible day, right? And everybody else was getting paid except for me. And I said, you know, that might be like one of the most humiliating, worst days of my life. So if somebody were to call you and say, "Oli, I'm having, man, my car got repoed last week. My electric is being shut off tomorrow. Everything I'm trying isn't working. I can't figure it out. I'm in a funk," whatever it is. What would you say to that person in that moment to help them get past that, get over the hump?
Isn't it that the best freaking thing what can happen to you? Because now we can only go up again. You know, like that's fucking rock and roll. Keep dancing. If you go through hell, the only thing you can do is keep going. And that's exactly what you need to do.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Love that answer. Love it. Hey, thank you again. I genuinely appreciate you, man. So thank you. Stay on here with me. I'm going to end the live stream. Sure. Thank you to everybody who's been on here. Everyone that shared this out, you get extra bonus points. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I highly appreciate it.
Thank you, dude. Awesome. You rock. You rock, man. Thank you.